Hi there, this is Miss Aiselson going over graphing inequalities note sheet. So we're going to go ahead and start with this number 1. And if you remember right, you can graph an these ones are not inequalities, but you can graph as long as you're in y equals mx plus b. So this is just a review from before. Remember that this is our b value, this 5 here, and that's where we start. So I'm going to start on a positive 5 and I'm going to put my first dot. And once I have that dot, I'm going to use that m, which is that -3, as my slope. So that tells me I'm going to go down 3. And then because that 1 is positive, I'm going to go to the right one. So 1, 2, 3, and right one, and then stick my dot in. I'm just going to keep doing that. 1, 2, 3 to the right one. 1, 2, 3 to the right one. If I can't go down into the right, check and see if you can go the opposite, which would be up and to the left. And this one I can't, and because it's equal, we can just go ahead and put that line right in there. Okay, so let's start with number 2. So remember, you need to be in y equals mx plus b. Because it's -x plus 3y, we want to get that x over on the other side, and we want to get y by itself. So this is really a minus 1x, and to get rid of a minus 1x, we're going to actually add 1x on this side. And if we add 1x on the left side, we also have to do that on the right side. So when I look at this, this is 3y. My equals is in the middle. I have to determine, am I going to write my 1x or my 6 first? I'm not going to combine those because they're different terms. One has an x and the other one doesn't. But when I think of y equals mx plus b, my x comes first. So I'm going to write that 1x first. And then I'm going to add that b. It's a positive, not a positive b. It's going to be a positive 6 because that 6 is up there. So I'm going to say plus 6. Okay, so I'm still looking. My y is still not by itself because it has that 3 there. When a letter and a number are together, they're being multiplied. So I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to divide this by 3. And if I divide that by 3, I have to divide this by 3 and this by 3. So now if I look at those 3's cancel. Change colors here so you can see it well. So my y is all by itself. My equals stays in equals. This part is going to stay a fraction because that's my slope. That tells me I'm going to go up 1 and to the right 3. But this next part I can reduce. So 6 divided by 3 is a positive 2. So this is going to be my slope right here. Not my slope, but where I'm going to start. My y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to start with that 2, that positive 2, and I'm going to put my first dot on a positive 2. And I'm getting that from right here. And then I'm going to use my slope that they gave me, which is this 1/3 x. And that tells me I'm going to go up 1 because the 1 is positive, and to the right 3. So up 1 to the right 3, up 1 to the right 3. And if I can't go up 1 and to the right 3, I'm going to do the exact opposite. So now I'm going to go down 1 and to the left 3. And then you're just going to connect those points together. Okay, so let's look at this one. When you only have like an x or a y equals, the best way to do this is if you make yourself a table, and on a table you have an x and you have a y. Okay, because it says x is 5, I'm going to put all my 5s under my x because my x is 5. And then I'm just going to pick any 3 numbers that I want to go under my y. So I'm choosing, I'd like to choose a -1, so I'm going to say a -3. I like to be kind of right in the middle, so I'm going to say 0. And then I'd like to do a positive 1. So this one I'm going to do a positive 3. Remember that this is my x and this is my y. So I start on my x coordinate first, or my x-axis first. So it says I'm going to go on my x-axis, I'm going to go to 5. And then I'm going to go down to -3. So if I go to the right, so let me just show you here. I'm going to start right. So this right here, so you can see it, is 0, 0. So it says I'm going to go to a positive 5. From 0, 0, I'm going to go positive 5 to the right and then down to 3. So 1, 2, 3. So now I'm at -3. And now it says I want to start at a positive 5 and be at 0. So again, I'm going to start at that 0, 0 right in the center. I'm going to go to a positive 5. And it says that next one tells me I'm going to go up or down. Because it's a 0, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to stay right there. Okay? The last one says 5, 3. So again, I'm starting at 0, 0. I'm going right to 5, and now I'm going up to 3. So this is going to make yourself a vertical line, just like that. Okay. If it said y equals 5, instead of putting all those 5s under the x's, I would put the 5s under the y, and then the x's I would choose 3 numbers to put there. Okay, so now we're going to get to graphing inequalities. So the other ones were not inequalities because they did not have greater than, less than symbols. So we are just going to graph them like you learned to graph before. But when we're doing inequalities, we're going to kind of follow the same process. So we want to put it in slope, intercept form. Okay, then we have to decide the line. So if we have a greater than or a less than symbol, and only a greater than or less than symbol, you're going to use a dashed line. And if it's a greater than equal to or less than equal to, you're going to use a solid line. And then you decide if you're shading. So if my x were right here, not my x, it would be my y, sorry about that. If my y were right here and it says y, and I'm looking at this like an alligator, this says y is greater because that alligator is eating it. So the first one says greater, this one says greater than equal to. We're going to shade up. Okay, but if my y was on this side and the alligator is pointing the other direction, this one says y is less than, or y is less than equal to, we're going to shade down. I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like here in one quick second. All right, so let's look at number 4. Okay, so right away I have to look, is my y the only thing on the left side of the inequality symbol? And this one is, so this one I can just graph. Remember that your m is your slope and your b is where you start. So I'm just going to put, because my y is all by itself, I'm just going to say m equals, and then this is my slope. So because it's just a 2, it's going to be a 2 over 1. If there's no bottom number, we're going to put a number there. And then my b is where I start. And I always start with that one. So I'm going to start at a positive 3. So looking at this one, I'm going to start at a positive 3. So 1, 2, 3. And also remember that when we start, we always start on this y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to put my first dot on a positive 3. From there, I'm going to go up 2 and over 1. So I'm going to go up 2 over 1. I can't go up 2 over 1, so I'm going to go back to my red dot, and from that red dot, I'm going to go down 2 and to the left 1. Okay, now we have to decide based on, and look where I'm highlighting right here, based on that symbol, y. That one says y is y is less than or equal to. If it's less than or equal to, and really what that means is it has both this, that's less than, this piece right here is equal. That means I'm going to put a solid line to connect all those points, and that's a bad connection, but that's okay. Okay, so we did our first part. We decided if it was a solid or a dash, that one's going to be a solid line. And then it says y is less than. To figure out less than, I'm going to put my pencil on a point, and I'm just going to, is less than, right? So it's going to go down. So I'm just putting my finger on a point and pulling down. Now I know that that whole side of the line is going to be shaded in. So I'm just going to shade that side right there. And that's all we have to do with that one. So let's look at this next one. We're going to do the same thing. The first thing we're going to determine is y all by itself. So I'm going to put a line right here. And I can see that the only thing on the left-hand side is that y. So it's by itself. So now I'm going to find my m. And remember, your m is always your slope, and it always comes with your x. So when I'm looking, there's no number with my x, but if there's no number there, it's really a 1. So my top of my slope is going to be 1, but remember, if there's no number under there, I put it over 1. So this one tells me I'm going to go up 1 and then to the right 1. My b is always the number that does not have the x, and that's going to be a -6. So on this y axis, I'm going to start at -6. So my first dot goes on -6, and then I'm going to do whatever my slope tells me. My slope's telling me I'm going to go up 1 and over 1. So up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. And I'm just going to keep going until I can't go anymore. Okay? Now I have to determine, is it solid or dotted line? When I look, it just has this right here. It doesn't have that line under it. So that just means that it is just greater than or less than, and it's not, it doesn't have that equal to piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect these, and I just like to connect them kind of by like every other, and then stick arrows on each end. Okay, now we have to determine, is y greater than or is y less than? Well, because it's opening up towards the y, it's greater than. So I'm going to find a couple of my dots, and greater means I'm going to go higher. Greater is higher, so I'm going to go up like this. And now I'm just going to shade everything on that side. So I'm just going to shade just like that. Okay, so let's look at a couple more. So I'm going to look at number 6 here. Okay, the first thing I do is I look to see is y all by itself. And when I look at that, yep, y is all by itself. So then I'm going to determine my m. Remember, my m is whatever comes with my x. So this one says -4. There's no bottom number, so it's going to be over 1. And then I have to determine my b, which is where I start. And that is the number that's all by itself. It's a +2, so I'm just going to put a +2 right there. So then on this y-axis, I'm going to put my first dot on a +2. So my first dot goes there, and then my slope tells me I'm going down 4 because it's a -4. And then that 1 on the bottom is positive, so I'm going to go in the positive direction 1. So I'm going to go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, +1. 1, 2, 3, 4, +1. If I can't go down and to the right, I'm going to go up and to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1. Okay, now I'm going to determine, am I solid or dotted? Or dashed, I guess you could say either or. So I have this, but I also have this. Because of that line underneath there, that tells me that all of these are going to be connected together with one line. So I'm just going to pull my line down like this. And now I have to decide, am I going to shade up or shade down? Well, the alligator mouth, or the open end, is towards the y. So that means I want to go greater. So I'm going to find a dot, and greater means high. So I'm just going to put some lines. So now I know that's the side that I have to shade. So I'm going to shade this whole side. Okay, let's look at number 7. Again, we always start the same. We look, is y all by itself? It sure is. So now I'm just finding my m. And my m is always with my x. This one's already a fraction, so I'm just going to leave it a fraction. And then I have to find my b. And I'm going to erase just a little bit. So we have to determine, is that b positive or negative? This one's negative, so I'm going to put a -2. Why is that not working? There it goes, -2. This is my y-axis. And because it's a -2, I'm going to start down here at the -2. And from there, it says I'm going to go up 1 and then to the right 2. So up 1 to the right 2. If I can't go up and to the right, I'm going to go down and to the left. Okay, and then I'm going to look back and look at my inequality symbol. It's just that. So I know that that means I have to like dash it or dot it. It doesn't matter how you want to say that. And then put your arrows on the end. And then it's saying y is, when I look at that, it's going to be greater because the alligator mouth is eating that y. So I'm going to say greater. So now I want to shade in everything that's greater. Okay, so these next ones make us do just a little bit more work. Okay, when I look at this, and if I were to draw that line down and I look, it says y plus 3x. That's all on the left side. We only want y on the left side, so I have to get rid of that 3x. So in order to get rid of that 3x, right now it's a positive 3x, I'm going to subtract 3x on this side. If I subtract 3x over there, I'm also going to subtract 3x over here. So that takes care of those 3x's. I have y. My symbol is going to stay the same. So my symbol looked like that before. And then when I determine, I'm not going to combine my -6 and my -3x because they're two different terms. So -3x goes first because it's y equals mx plus b. And then that -6 is going to be my b. So now I look, is my y all by itself? It sure is. So I'm going to find my m. My m is going to be that -3. There's no number under it, so it's going to be over 1. I'm getting that right there. And then my b is right here, so my b equals -6. And now, because the y is all by itself, I'm going to go ahead and graph it right here. So my first dot is going to go on that -6. So I'm going to put my first dot here. And this one says I'm going to go down 3 and to the right 1. But notice you can't go down 3 because you're off the graph. So another thing that's going down 3 to the right 1 is going up 3 and then to the left 1. Notice the negative just changed from the top to the bottom, but we're just going to do the exact opposite. So this one I'm going to go up 3 and now I'm going to the left. Okay, because I have both the greater than and equal to symbol, I'm going to make this a solid line. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in solid like that. Okay, and it's saying it's greater than, so I'm going to find my, because it's eating the y, so that's why it's greater than, so I'm finding my dots and I'm pulling up, and that just tells me that whole side I'm going to shade in. So I'm going to shade in right there. Okay, one more to do, number 9. So when I look at number 9, we're going to try and get our y all by itself. And right now there's a -2 times that y. In order to get rid of a -2 multiplied by a y, we're going to do the opposite. So I'm going to divide by a -2 and divide this by a -2 and divide this by a -2. That gets rid of those -2's. My y stays the same, like it's just a y over there. Now we have to be careful. Before it was a less than symbol, but if you remember right when we did inequalities before, if you divide by a negative, it changes how the way that the inequality symbol is facing. So before it was less than, so we're going to switch it to greater than because we divided by a negative. If I have 4 divided by a -2, that gives me a -2. I still have an x. If I have -10 divided by -2, a negative and a negative turn into a positive, so I'm going to say plus 5. So now when I'm looking, is my y by itself? Yes, it is. So now I can find my m and I can find my b. So this is going to be my m, so it's going to be -2. There's no number under it, so I'm going to put a 1. And then this is my b, and it's a +5, so I'm just going to put a +5. So I'm going to put my first dot on that y-axis, so I'm going to put it on here. So my first dot is going to be on that +5. And then my slope tells me I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. So from there, I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. Down 2 to the right 1. Okay, I can't go down anymore, and I can't go up anymore. Okay, this one says y is greater than. It does not have equal to, so this one I'm just going to use those dashed lines kind of in between there to, and then put your arrows on the end. And then y is greater, so I'm going to come up here, greater goes higher, and I'm going to go ahead and fill that in right there. Okay, so that is the end of your notes for, what is this? Graphing inequalities. So you have a homework sheet that is labeled the same, graphing inequalities. So your practice sheet is to complete that practice on your homework.